Aren't you bunch of geography nerds think you know everything about maps and shit? Think it's all just memorizing state capitals and drawing those shitty diagrams?
Oh,
Let's
God.
cut the crap. Today, we're diving deep into the real fucking deal. Geography. Not the bullshit version they teach in school. We've got Wikipedia open.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, that site your professor hates, to guide us through this deep dive.
Seriously. Wikipedia.
Okay, don't knock it till you try it. It's actually got some juicy stuff about geography that might surprise your ass.
All right. I'm intrigued. What kind of juicy stuff are we talking about?
Well, for starters, it ain't just about where shit is. It's about WHY. Things are fucked up the way they are. From mountains and rivers to people and their dumbass ideas.
That's a pretty cynical way to put it, but I get what you're saying. Geography is about understanding the complexities of our planet, how it's shaped over time, and how humans interact with it.
Exactly. And it's changed a lot throughout history. From those old-timey maps with sea monsters and shit to the high-tech satellite imagery we have today. But before we get into all that, let's start with the basics. What the hell is geography anyway?
It's more than just locations and maps. It's about understanding the patterns and processes that shape our world. Why are cities where they are? Why do certain regions have specific climates? How does the environment influence culture and society?
Right, so it's not just memorizing where Uzbekistan is on a map. It's about understanding why that shithole is where it is and why anyone would ever want to go there.
Well, there's a lot more to Uzbekistan than you might think. But you're right, geography is about digging deeper, asking why instead of just where.
Speaking of why, how about we dive into some of those key concepts this Wikipedia article keeps mentioning? Space, place, time, and scale. Sounds like a load of bullshit to me. But maybe you can make sense of it.
Those concepts are actually crucial to understanding geography. They're not just abstract ideas, they're tools for analyzing how the world works.
Okay, I'm listening. Break it down for me. Let's start with space.
Space isn't just the empty void between objects. It's about the relationships and connections between things. Think about it. The distance between two cities influences how they interact, whether it's through trade, migration, or even war.
So basically, space is like the invisible glue that holds everything together.
You could put it that way. And then you have place, which is more than just a location on a map. It's about the meaning we give to a particular space, the history, the culture, the emotions associated with it. Why do people get so pissed off when their favorite bar gets torn down? It's because that place held meaning for them.
Makes sense. We all have those spots that hold special significance, whether it's our childhood home, our favorite park, or that dive bar where we had our first blackout drunk.
Exactly. And then there's time, which is obviously about how things change over time. Geography isn't just about understanding the world as it is today. It's about looking back at how it's evolved and trying to predict how it might change in the future.
So, like, how did that swamp turn into a shopping mall?
Precisely. Or how did that bustling city become a ghost town? Geography helps us understand these transformations, both natural and human-induced.
All right, I'm starting to get it. So what about scale? Is that just about zooming in and out on a map?
It's more than that. It's about understanding how things look different depending on the perspective you're taking. You can look at a problem from a local, regional, national, or global scale, and each perspective will reveal different insights.
So, like, why do countries act like assholes sometimes? Could be a scale thing.
Absolutely. What might seem like a good idea on a national level could have disastrous consequences on a global scale. Think about environmental policies or trade agreements.
Okay, my brain is starting to hurt. Let's move on before I get a fucking aneurysm.
Fair enough. What else from this Wikipedia rabbit hole piques your interest?
Well, this article mentions some laws of geography. Like, are there actual rules to this shit?
There are some principles that geographers have observed and formulated, but they're not exactly laws in the scientific sense. The most famous one is Tobler's first law of geography.
Let me guess. Something about maps and compasses.
Not quite. It states that everything is related to everything else, but near things are more related than distant things.
Sounds like some hippie bullshit, but it kind of makes sense. Like,
Well-
you're more likely to hook up with someone in your neighborhood than someone in fucking Antarctica, right?
Exactly. It's about proximity and influence. Think about pollution. It affects those closest to it the most. Or think about how trends spread. They often start in one place and then diffuse outward.
So basically, the closer you are to something, the more it's going to fuck with your life.
You could put it that way. And there are other proposed laws of geography, like the uncertainty principle, which basically says that we can't measure everything perfectly. Spatial heterogeneity, which means that things aren't evenly distributed across space.
Hold on. Spatial hetero what? You're starting to lose me with these big words.
Sorry. Basically, it means that the world is a messy, complex place, and things are rarely evenly distributed. Think about wealth, for example. It's concentrated in certain areas, creating inequalities and disparities.
So basically, the world is fucked up and unpredictable, and we can't even measure it perfectly. Sounds about right.
It wouldn't be so unpredictable if we could measure it, would it? Speaking of measuring, how the hell do geographers actually DO this shit? I mean, how do they study the world? What methods do they use besides, uh, you know, staring at maps and stroking their beards?
Yeah, besides getting lost in their own thoughts and shit. Spill the tea.
Well, maps are a big part of it, obviously. Cartography is like their bread and butter. But they use other methods too, both quantitative and qualitative.
Quantitative, qualitative.
Yeah.
Sounds like a load of academic bullshit.
It's not that complicated. Quantitative methods involve using numbers and data to analyze spatial patterns. Think about things like geographic information systems, or GIS for short.
GIS. Sounds like some kind of secret government agency, like the CIA or something.
Not quite, but it's pretty damn powerful. GIS uses computer technology to analyze and visualize spatial data. Like imagine you're trying to track the spread of a disease, like some kind of zombie apocalypse shit.
Okay, now you're talking my language. Zombies and geography. This is getting interesting.
So GIS can help you map out where the zombie cases are concentrated, identify high-risk areas, and even predict how the outbreak might spread.
Damn, that's the next level shit. So like if there was a zombie apocalypse, I could use GIS to find the safest place to hide.
You could certainly try. But it's not just about zombies. GIS has tons of real-world applications, like urban planning, environmental management, and even marketing.
Okay, so GIS is like the ultimate tool for geography nerds. What else do they have in their arsenal?
Well, there's remote sensing, which is basically using satellites and other high-tech gadgets to gather information about the Earth from afar.
So like spying on people from space?
You could say that, but it's mainly used for things like monitoring environmental changes, tracking natural disasters, and even mapping out unexplored territories.
So geography is kind of like a detective, figuring out the mysteries of the world. But instead of a magnifying glass, they've got satellites and computers.
Exactly. They're piecing together the puzzle of our planet using all sorts of tools and data.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the qualitative stuff you mentioned earlier? Is that all about feelings and shit?
Not exactly. Qualitative methods focus on understanding the human experience of place. It's about exploring the meanings and values people attach to different spaces, the stories they tell, the ways they interact with their environment.
So like instead of just looking at data points on a map, you're actually talking to people and listening to their experiences.
Exactly. One example of a qualitative method is ethnography, which involves immersing yourself in a culture to understand its people and their relationship to their environment.
Sounds like a good excuse to travel the world and eat exotic food.
It can be, but it's also serious work. It's about listening to people's stories, observing their behavior, and trying to understand the world from their perspective.
So geography isn't just about crunching numbers and staring at satellite images. There's a human side to it as well.
Absolutely. Geography is about understanding both the physical and human dimensions of our world. It's about how people shape the environment, and how the environment shapes people.
Mind blown. I never thought geography could be so deep. But let's be real. What could you actually DO with a geography degree? Besides, being a professor or a map maker, is there any money to be made in this shit?
Actually, there are tons of career options for geography grads. You could go into urban planning, helping to design cities that are both functional and sustainable.
So you're the ones responsible for all those bike lanes and roundabouts that piss everyone off.
Hey, someone's got to try and make cities less car-centric.
Fair enough. What else?
You could go into environmental management, working to protect natural resources and mitigate the impacts of climate change.
Saving the planet one map at a time. I dig it.
You could also work in GIS, which is a booming field with applications in everything from disaster relief to marketing. Or you could go into cartography, which is still very much relevant in the digital age.
So you're telling me there's a future for people who like to draw maps?
Absolutely. Maps are powerful tools for communication and understanding. They help us visualize complex information, make sense of spatial patterns, and even tell stories.
All right, I'm starting to see the appeal. So geography isn't just some dusty old academic subject. It's a vibrant and dynamic field with real-world applications. Who knew?
It's all about understanding the world in all its complexity and interconnectedness. It's about asking questions, challenging assumptions, and using our knowledge to make the world a better place.
Okay, I'm sold. But before I go enroll in a geography program, I need one more thing.
What's that?
Some juicy gossip about famous geographers. I'm talking scandals, rivalries, crazy expeditions. Spill the tea.
You're really pushing it now, but fine, I'll indulge you. Let's start with William Morris Davis, who's considered the father of American geography.
Sounds boring.
He was a pretty influential guy. He came up with the cycle of erosion, which explains how landscapes are shaped over time. But you know what else? He was a notorious control freak. He dominated the field of geography for decades and wasn't afraid to shut down anyone who disagreed with him.
Classic power move. Who else we got?
Then you've got Carl Sauer, a cultural geographer who was known for his work on landscapes and human impact on the environment.
He sounds more my speed. An environmentalist.
Yeah, he was a strong advocate for conservation, but he was also a bit of a contrarian. He didn't believe in using quantitative methods like statistics, which was pretty controversial at the time.
So like a hippie geographer.
Something like that. He believed in studying the world through direct observation and firsthand experience, which is pretty cool, actually.
I could dig it. Any more dirt on famous geographers?
Well, there's Yai-Fu Tuan, who's considered a pioneer in humanistic geography. He was all about how we experience places, the emotions and memories we associate with them.
Sounds like a sensitive soul.
He was a brilliant guy, but you know what's interesting about him? He was originally trained as an architect.
No way.
Yep, he even worked on some architectural projects before switching to geography.
So he was like a geographer who could actually design buildings. That's pretty badass. Any more scandals or shocking revelations?
I think that's enough gossip for now. Let's move on to something a bit more
Boring.
thought-provoking. How about we delve into the evolution of this field? Geography, like that mold on your leftover pizza, has changed a lot over time.
So it wasn't always about bitching about climate change and gentrification.
Funny. But no, in the old days, it was more about exploration and mapping the unknown, like those old-timey maps with sea monsters and shit. That was geography back then.
Sounds kind of badass, actually. Like, imagine sailing across the ocean not knowing what the fuck you're gonna find.
It was a different world. And those early explorers, they were like the rock stars of their time. Dudes like Christopher Columbus and Ferdinand Magellan, they were changing the map, literally, with their voyages.
But weren't they also like colonizers and shit? Didn't they kind of fuck things up for the people already living in those undiscovered lands?
Yeah, that's the dark side of exploration and colonialism. It wasn't all sunshine and roses. But those early voyages, they did lay the foundation for modern geography. They gave us a better understanding of the Earth's physical features and the different cultures that inhabit it.
So how did we go from mapping sea monsters to analyzing satellite data?
Well, over time, geography became more scientific and specialized. We developed new tools and techniques like GIS and remote sensing that allowed us to study the Earth in greater detail. And different branches of geography emerged, focusing on specific areas like human-environment interaction, economic geography, and urban planning.
So it's like geography evolved from a rough sketch to a high-definition picture.
That's a good analogy. And today, geography is more important than ever. We're facing some serious challenges like climate change, population growth, and resource scarcity. And we need geographers to help us understand these challenges and find solutions.
So geographers are like the superheroes of the 21st century, saving the world with maps and data.
Something like that. They're using their knowledge and skills to make a difference. They're working to create sustainable cities, protect the environment, and promote social justice.
Damn, geography IS, way more badass than I thought.
It's a fascinating and important field. It's about understanding the world around us, from the physical landscapes to the human societies that inhabit them. It's about exploring the connections between people, places, and the environment.
All right, you've convinced me. Geography's pretty damn cool.
I told you.
So, what's the takeaway here? What should our listeners do with all this newfound knowledge?
Go explore. Learn more about the world. Pay attention to the places you inhabit and the people you share them with. Think about how your actions impact the environment and the future.
Be a conscious asshat, basically.
Exactly. Be curious, ask questions, and never stop learning. Geography is all around us. It's just waiting to be discovered.
And on that note, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Go forth and conquer, you geography nerds.
And tune in next time for another deep dive into something else that might blow your mind.
All right, so we've talked about all this geography stuff, from maps and concepts to famous geographers and their scandalous lives, but let's wrap this shit up with something a little more philosophical. What's the big takeaway here? Why the fuck should anyone give a damn about geography?
That's a great question, and one that geographers themselves have been grappling with for centuries.
Wait, so even the geography nerds don't know why geography matters? What a bunch of asshats.
Hey, give them some credit. Geography is a vast and complex field, constantly evolving and adapting to new challenges. But at its core, it's about understanding our place in the world.
Okay, that sounds pretty deep. But what does that actually mean?
It means recognizing that we're not just isolated individuals living in a vacuum. We're interconnected with each other, with the environment, and with the past and future. Geography helps us see those connections, understand the consequences of our actions, and make more informed decisions about how we live our lives.
So, like, if I decide to build a giant swimming pool in my backyard, that's going to have some kind of ripple effect on the environment and maybe even on the people around me.
Exactly. It might seem like a small personal decision, but it could contribute to water scarcity, habitat destruction, or even social inequality if you're hogging all the resources.
Damn, I never thought about it like that. So geography is kind of like a guidebook for being a better human.
You could say that. It provides us with the tools and knowledge to navigate the complexities of our world, to appreciate its beauty and diversity, and to address the challenges we face.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light. But let's be real. Most people just think geography is about memorizing capitals and drawing those shitty maps. How do we convince them that it's actually a badass subject worth studying?
I think the key is to show them how relevant it is to their lives. Geography is all around us. It's in the food we eat, the clothes we wear, the technology we use. It's in the news headlines about climate change, migration, and political conflict. Once people realize that geography is about understanding the world they live in, they'll be more likely to give a damn.
All right, I'm sold. Geography is officially cool. So any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Go explore. Get out there and experience the world firsthand. Travel to new places, talk to different people, learn about different cultures, and don't forget to look at your own backyard with fresh eyes. There's always something new to discover, even in the most familiar places.
And on that note, we're out of here. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the wild world of geography. Remember, folks, be curious, ask questions, and never stop exploring. And if anyone tells you geography is boring, tell them to shove it.